Now we go live.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in these final days of Ramadan, we are praying that God bring peace, justice, and mercy for all mankind in these difficult days. I would like to welcome you to this special event launching the International Dialogue on the Role of Islamic Finance in Achieving the SDGs. I am Rami Ahmed, the Special Envoy on SDGs and Special Advisor to His Excellency, the President of the Islamic Development Bank, and I am honored to serve as today's moderator for the launch of this global discussion in an effort to really shed light and to identify ways that the Islamic community can help to achieve the development goals through the mobilization of the Islamic finance tools such as Zakat, Sadaqah, Waqf, among others. Actually, Zakat, for example, has been throughout the ages, throughout the centuries, an informal safety net for the poor and the needy, and effectively dealing with issues of poverty and inequality. It was so effective in the early Muslim societies to the extent that there was a time when the Zakat collected far exceeded the needs. And the authorities would look for people to accept the Zakat, but they would find no one. Today, unfortunately, we are facing huge financing gaps to deal with basic issues about poverty and well-being and inequality issues. Even before the pandemic, the estimated financing gap to meet the SDGs was $2.5 trillion annually. And as the world was entering the decade of action to deliver on the 2030 agenda for sustainable development, the world was shaken to its very core by the COVID-19 pandemic, not only creating a public health crisis, but also economic and social crises with consequences that could, God forbid, jeopardize the achievement of the SDGs altogether. And as a result, with over 100 million people pushed back in extreme poverty, and we're losing more than 255 million jobs, according to the ILO, the estimated financing gap has increased to $4 trillion in 2020. To support bridging the gap through innovative forms of financing, the United Nations and the Islamic Development Bank come together today to launch a virtual global dialogue on unlocking the potential of the Islamic social finance to help in eradicating extreme poverty and boosting shared prosperity on the road to achieving the SDGs. And this cannot be more needed and more timely than a time when the world is really grappling with the still evolving ramifications of the COVID-19 pandemic. To open this dialogue, we are honored today to have with us Her Excellency Ms. Amina Mohammed, the Deputy Secretary General, and His Excellency Dr. Bandar Hajjar, the President of the Islamic Development Bank. And after their opening speeches, we will be having a discussion with the three distinguished panelists, Dr. Rula Deshti, the Executive Secretary of ESCWA, Dr. Mahmoud Mahyiddin, the UN Secretary General Envoy on Financing the SDGs and a board member on the IMF, and Dr. Ahmed Al-Murrehi, the Special Advisor also to the Secretary General of the United Nations. Now, I am pleased to give the floor to the Deputy Secretary General, Ms. Amina Mohammed, to open this event. Ms. Amina, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rami. His Excellency, the President of the Islamic Development Bank, Dr. Bandar Hajjar, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. It's my pleasure to welcome you to event announcing the International Dialogue on the Role of Islamic Social Financing in Achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, which is being held jointly with the Islamic Development Bank. We gather today during the holy month of Ramadan in solidarity with our brothers and sisters worldwide who are suffering the effects of the global pandemic. COVID-19 has claimed more than 3 million lives and pushed between 119 and 124 million more people into poverty in the past year alone. The world was totally unprepared for this catastrophe, even though a solution remained in plain view, the Sustainable Development Goals. The SDGs are and must remain our collective compass to create the world that we want and ensure that all people, including in the Muslim world, can withstand future shocks. Despite the global consensus around the goals, the levels of financing for sustainable development were already stagnant or had even witnessed fallen in some areas before the COVID-19 crisis hit. By the end of 2020, the world was facing a $4.2 trillion shortfall in annual financing to achieve the 17 SDGs by 2030. That's more than 70% in just the year before. Islamic social financing can play a key role to address the challenges of ending extreme poverty, boosting shared prosperity, and responding to the pandemic and achieving the SDGs. Alleviating hunger, poverty, and inequality, promoting peace and protecting the environment are central to Islamic principles and are embodied in the Islamic social financing instruments of Zakat, Sadaqah, and Waqf. These instruments play an important role in the economic and religious fabric of all Muslims, but need to be better known and understood. Together with the Islamic Development Bank, the United Nations is inviting scholars and practitioners, institutions, and the international community to embark on an in-depth discussion on how to fully leverage Islamic social financing for sustainable development. This proposed dialogue also intends to address the world's immediate needs. We must use every tool we can to ensure universal access to the COVID-19 vaccines, suppress transmission of the virus and its variants, and build a better prepared global healthcare system. Standing in solidarity with those in need means exploring how Islamic social financing can support the pandemic response through the ACT Accelerator and its COVAX facility, as well as other initiatives and vehicles to ensure equitable access to vaccines, diagnostics, and therapeutics. Let me highlight two key questions for our discussion today. First, how can we use Zakat, Sadaqah, and Waqf to increase vaccine production, build long-term healthcare infrastructure, and bolster social protection to support the most vulnerable and ensure pandemic preparedness in the future? Second question would be, how can we further align the core Islamic principles, such as fraternity, reducing poverty and hunger, and protecting our planet, with the SDGs and operationalize Islamic social financing mechanisms to support the SDGs and build back better? I warmly welcome the partnership with the Islamic Development Bank in undertaking this dialogue with the United Nations to answer these questions and to deliver tangible results in the lives of people. Islamic social financing can and must be an integral part of the solution for financing sustainable development. I very much look forward to our discussions today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Amina, for this inspiring opening, actually, and very pertinent questions aligning the Islamic principles. Maqasid al-Sharia, the objective of Sharia, is really 100% aligned with the SDGs, and the questions that you are putting on the table are very pertinent. And we thank you for this inspiring opening. Even when people start showing signs of fatigue about the SDGs, you always come in inspiring and keeping the flame of hope alive. Your tenacity and perseverance are really unmatched. More power to you, Ms. Amina. Thank you very much. And now, who's a better suited partner to enrich this initiative and really enhance its credibility than the Islamic Development Bank? As per its mandate, the Islamic Development Bank is an organization that is fairly and squarely at the intersection of development and Islamic finance. And I am pleased really to welcome His Excellency Dr. Bandar Hajjar to give his opening speech. Mr. President, please, the floor is yours.
شكرا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Ms. Amina Mohammed, Deputy Secretary General, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is an immense pleasure to be with you today to launch this strategic partnership between the Islamic Development Bank and the United Nations on a topic potentially global relevance, namely Islamic social finance. I can think of no better time to launch such noble partnership than during this holy month of Ramadan, month of charity and compassion. Islamic finance tools in general, whether they are for commercial, economic, or social purposes, carry values and ethics that integrate economic, social, environmental dimensions to achieve three main goals: profitability, sustainability, and impact. Therefore, we don't look at these tools from the profitability perspective only, but we instead consider them a multidimensional and responsible by nature. COVID-19 pandemic has left no doubt that achieving the SDGs will be no easy task. The ongoing pandemic has revealed the fragility of our socio-economic system and how unprepared we are for such shocks. Innovative approaches to achieving the SDGs can build an economic, social, and environmental fabric that can withstand pandemics and disasters and achieve sustainable job-generating growth. Since I became president of the Islamic Development Bank in October 2016, I have focused on empowering a network of developers. This approach to development, which emphasizes the role of MDBs as a facilitator of a larger inclusive community of actors, is perfectly aligned with the concept of resilience and Islamic social finance. Furthermore, ISDB is working to address poverty and unemployment according to its new business model of making markets work for development through global value chains approach and comprehensive solutions. This holistic approach ensures the participation of all players, including private sector, charities, civil society organizations, universities, and research sector. It helps transform market from public sector dominated to competitive space, fulfilling the interest of all players and societies at large by focusing on SDG 8 and 9 and 17. The Islamic economic system considers that sustainable economic growth driven by market is the best and most effective way to improve people's conditions, reduce poverty, raise the standard of living, and preserve human dignity. This is why we at ISTB are shifting from the aid-based tendency towards empowerment-based approach to ensure sustainability. To reach this objective, we have introduced various initiatives and programs. We have established an economic empowerment department, and we launched many thematic funds in different countries to finance micro projects, and we have established Transform Fund with $500 million to empower creative people to achieve their potential. We have also created a scholarship program that has benefited 17,000 young men and women from more than 190 countries to date. We recognize the plight of many marginalized groups who cannot reach the markets, or those with access but don't achieve sufficient income level to preserve their humanity and dignity. These groups are eligible for Zakat and Sadaqah and Awqaf resources of Islamic social financing, an extension of Islam's market-based approach. These are all tools to redistribute a portion of the income achieved by the successful market players. To support these marginalized groups, we must strive to establish social safety nets in developing countries funded by Zakat, Sadaqah, Awqaf funds, and supported by the government, with an estimated $300 billion annual Zakat globally, diverting even 1% of this amount toward the most pressing global needs and the most marginalized group would be significant achievement. Distinguished guests, the Islamic Development Bank is working to develop financial products that achieve economic, social, and environmental goals and respond to aspiration of a new and growing class of social investors in the world today. Therefore, the bank established Center of Excellence in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, focusing on Islamic financing and others. We launched also an incubator in Muhammad Fifth University in Morocco and in Jakarta in Indonesia to develop a new commercial and social financing tool. We are also in the process of establishing a global center of excellence for Awqaf in Al-Madinah Al-Munawwara, Saudi Arabia. Besides the $3.64 billion we have committed under our strategic preparedness and response program for COVID-19 pandemic, and we are exploring innovative financing options to meet the most urgent global needs, including distributing vaccine. In this spirit, we launched this partnership today, starting with the international dialogue on the role of Islamic social financing in achieving the SDGs. We are confident the upcoming dialogue will produce initiatives, programs, and campaigns that leverage mechanisms such as Zakat, Sadaqah, and Awqaf and address three challenges. We have already received a favorable religious opinion, fatwa, from the International Islamic Fiqh Academy on using Zakat fund for the COVID-19 vaccine, and we look forward to looking on a joint campaign with the United Nations in this regard from a resource mobilization perspective in support of the 2030 global agenda. The Zakat, Sadaqah, and Waqf tools are ideal for the rising interest in philanthropy and blended finance. Distinguished guests, our recent joint launch with UNICEF of the Global Muslim Philanthropy Fund for Children, mainly based on Zakat and Sadaqah, is one example of the rising profile of Islamic social finance. Beyond Zakat and Sadaqah, the ISDB is upscaling its financing of Awqaf by its Awqaf Property Investment Fund, promoting the concept of revenue-generating endowment as crucial to long-term financing sustainability of development partners and building localized resilience. In parallel with these activities, the ISDB has continued to take thought leadership in the area. The ISDB Group Islamic Research and Training Institute 2014 Islamic Social Finance Report was the world's first ever publication to use Islamic social finance to describe the Islamic philanthropy-based and not-for-profit sector. Finally, I would like to thank the team led by Her Excellency Ms. Amina Mohammed. She has really led the effort to make this event and the subsequent dialogue reality. ISDB look forward to actively co-leading, supporting, and participating in following sessions, and we are confident that the dialogue and other joint initiatives will significantly impact building awareness among development practitioners about the role of Islamic social finance in achieving the SDG. Invoking the spirit of this of holy month of Ramadan, we are confident this partnership will help serve all humanity. On that note, I would like to end my speech by wishing all the success of this vital initiative, and I look forward to positive outcome of this dialogue. And ISDB invite countries, institutions, individuals willing to bring about positive change to join us in this noble initiative. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. The paradigm shift from aid-based tendencies to empowerment-based approaches. The news of the fatwa is really great news to utilize Zakat for the vaccine initiatives. And the concrete example of UNICEF is really at the heart of what we are trying to do here. Thank you very much for this speech and the commitment and the highlights of the work of the Islamic Development Bank and the commitment of the leadership to really play a key role in this initiative. Mr. President, Ms. Amina, there is no doubt of the created synergies and the enhanced credibility of having such a partnership between the United Nations and the Islamic Development Bank. Thank you very much. Now we move to the second part of our event today, basically to break the ice. We will have a 20-minute discussion with three distinguished panelists, as I mentioned, Dr. Rula Dashti, the Executive Secretary of the Unhcr, the Economic and Social Commission for West Asia, and Dr. Mahmoud Muhyiddin, the United Nations Secretary General, Special Envoy on Financing the SDGs, and Dr. Ahmed Al-Merehi, Special Advisor to the UN Secretary General. And I would like really to start with Ms. Rula, if I may. Dr. Rula, you are in charge of one of the important regions, perhaps the most important region when it comes to the Islamic finance, Zakat in particular. And you yourself, you are from the region, and you would appreciate the importance of Zakat for people, whether it's on the receiving end or on the giving end also. And it is very important in the DNA of the makeup of the societies in your region. I was wondering, could you please share your thoughts from an institutional perspective? How can the UN, and particularly ISQA, play a role in unlocking the potential of Islamic social finance for the benefit of the region and perhaps globally? And it would be really great if you could share some of the concrete examples to enlighten this discussion. Dr. Rula, the floor is yours. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Dr. Rami, and thank you for the introduction. And I follow up with what we heard from Amina Mohammed and Dr. Bender on the importance of the Islamic social financing into it, and how it's important to bridge the gap in the SDG financing of it. And I think what we heard also, that the values and the modalities through Maqasid, the Sharia, as you said, Rami, can be one of these innovative solutions for partnership and bridging the gap of financing. As you are aware, we have almost $2 trillion of zakatable assets and about $1 trillion of awqaf assets that can be mobilized to be part of the solution. And we heard it's almost around $300–400 billion into it. And I think the Islamic social finance can address 3 F's: the financial constraints, the funding shortfalls, and the financing inequalities. And this is what we have heard also from Amina on that issues. Today, the UN can reap, and we are as Unhcr, the potential of Islamic financing through innovative hybrid approaches to stimulate economic activities, to promote social welfare, enhance financial inclusion, and boost shared prosperity. And in fact, several UN entities have already introduced, especially in the region, the Zakat Trust or funds. In addition to the Global Equity Philanthropy, the fund that was mentioned by Dr. Bender, which aims at assisting almost 90 million children in need for basic humanitarian support. We do have the Unhcr Zakat Refugee Fund that implements several humanitarian programs, including shelter, healthcare, education, economic inclusion, and cash assistance. We also have UNDP and the National Board of Zakat, which is responsible for the disbursement of the Islamic mandatory contribution to the poor in Indonesia. And also Unhcr, spend the zakat money it receives for vulnerable Palestinian refugees in Gaza. And I think what we're seeing today, what's happening in Palestine and Masjid Aqsa, they're much the people are need on the zakat money for their sustenance and livelihood. In addition, I think now with the creation and the opportunities that the technology and the fintech creates, I think the dialogue can benefit from exploring the possibility of establishing a regional zakat, a waqf or sadaqa fund, that can automatically, virtually, instantly transfer fund donations for emergency relief and improve on poverty reduction, in addition to creating opportunities and vulnerable groups within a mutually reinforcing framework of prudent governments that is aligned with the spirit and intent of the SDG. Into it. At the country level, also to improve on the zakat and mainstream the zakat principles, I think Unhcr can support in converging regulatory modalities and guidelines for structuring Islamic finance products alongside social ones, provide insights on adjusting the tax regulations to eliminate the debt biases in taxation, and which stimulate discrimination against the equity-based financing that Islamic finance and social finance provide into it. In addition, the Islamic financing play a big role, as we heard, in the economic sustenance of and improving countries' levels. But however, their impact has not been recognized. And the UN system through DESA and Unhcr, along with the IMF, World Bank, Islamic Development Bank, and the GZ-STAT, are working on guidelines to incorporate Islamic social finance in national accounts, so that it becomes much more visible and put the Islamic finance in the right track in terms of the economic recoveries and assistance in the development of nations. There is a lot of full potentials of the zakat, as Dr. Benders have stated, not in terms of sustenance, but also in terms of empowerment and creating opportunities. And creating opportunities in our region is extremely important, as governments has invested so much in creating in developing capabilities. In the absence of investing in creating opportunities. So we have a population that is developed, is capable, but it lacks opportunity. And Islamic financing now can switch into creating these opportunities to the masses of our people, so that we have a sustainable livelihood with people living in dignity and a shared prosperity of it. The second thing is the principles of the zakat itself is in the reduction of inequality, because it's the principle of shared justice and fairness. And I think these are principles that embodied also is aligned with the SDGs that can complement each other with these types of principles to utilize the funds of the zakat in the principles of shared responsibility, societal solidarity principle. And this is what we think that zakat money should be targeted on under that umbrella. Over. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fulla, for this rich intervention and the many examples. Actually, very happy to hear all of these UN agencies really trying to tap into the zakat. Notable examples are the Unhcr. I think we heard a lot about their humanitarian work, the UNDP in Indonesia, and notably the UNICEF with the IDB. I think these are very notable, concrete examples, so to speak, so we can move from the theory to the application and tangible results on the ground. Thank you, Ms. Fulla, for this intervention. And now I would like to bring Dr. Mahmoud Muhyiddin. Very few people in the world, by the way, have the combined experience of innovative financing and the SDGs. Not to mention an ex-minister of investment in his country and a senior vice president at the World Bank. In addition to being a champion of the SDGs, he has been also a strong advocate for Islamic finance, since his early years in academia. See, Dr. Mahmoud, I did my homework, by the way, on you. So welcome to this discussion. And you know, as I always blame you for the phrase billions to trillions, sometimes jokingly and sometimes seriously about this phrase, because I don't know how we can tackle these financing gaps. But really, as someone, you have seen the trends of financing for development. Can you tell us more about these financing gaps for the SDGs? And are they real or being exaggerated with all these trillions of dollars we're talking about? Since the time of Addis Ababa, I've been hearing you about financing gaps. Sometimes it just kills the hope that many of us development practitioners would like to see. But I'll give you the floor. And since you have the floor, please, what's your take on the potential of utilizing the Islamic social finance tools to expand, to respond to the immediate COVID-19 needs, but also in general for the SDGs? The floor is yours, Dr. Mahmoud, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rami, for this generous introduction and perhaps raising the expectations beyond what I'm going to deliver today. It's almost great to participate in such an initiative. I commend the leadership of Ms. Amina Mohammed, the Deputy Secretary General, and the President of the Islamic Development Bank, Dr. Hajjar. It's great to see you both here in a very important, practical, and hopefully a very useful cause going forward. And grateful as well to join this panel with Dr. Dashti and Dr. Marihi. So what we have today, and the DSG mentioned the challenges that we're facing, and this month of May reminds us of the initiative led by the Secretary General and the Prime Ministers of Canada and Jamaica, highlighting what finance can do to deal with the most challenging crises of our time. And the initiative that they led ended with a menu of options, encouraging cooperative solutions, innovative solutions, and alternative financial solutions. And I think of what had been mentioned so far is basically telling us that Islamic finance can be fit for the purpose in answering some of the big challenges that we are having today. The beauty of Islamic finance, that there is no finance for finance. It's finance for a cause, finance for a value, and finance for underlying asset. And the existent examples today, especially in the social instruments, be them al-Qard al-Hasan, al-Zakat, al-Sadaqat, al-Waqf, and a variety of instruments supported by innovation, especially in social sukuk. The recent initiatives and issuance by the Islamic Development Bank, highlighted by His Excellency the President of the bank, like the sustainability sukuk or the COVID-19 sukuk, is a good example of what Islamic finance can do in mobilizing resources and targeting them adequately where needed. The example mentioned as well by Dr. Dashti is telling us that Islamic finance is going beyond experimentation into action. What's missing really is scale and scope. Finance really matters, and beyond the challenge of the billions to trillions, and actually in the same day we launched the billions to trillions with the rest of the MDBs and the IMF in 2015, and actually that day I had the pleasure actually of seeing His Excellency Ambassador Idris when he was the Egyptian ambassador in Ethiopia, and a discussion I remember about the billions to trillions and the ambitions. That was the gap. But we're always worried that the billions to trillions could be billions to millions, which is less, if the right environment is not there. And this is one of our friends, the previous president of the IFC, Mr. Leroux, have been always warning us about. That while we are aiming for the trillions, the danger of getting the scale down is upon us if you are not having the right environment, the right support. Having said that, I'm happy to say that Islamic finance reports, including the recent report from the Standard & Poor's and other rating agencies, is telling us the following, that despite the challenges, there is growth of Islamic finance, amounting to around 11.2% before the crisis per year. And there are activities and initiatives to streamline Islamic finance, including Sukuk, to restore attractiveness to the issuers and to play with the market dynamics. There are important areas of work here about standardization, because one of the main challenges facing Islamic finance in practice is the standardization, and we are appreciative really of a variety of bodies that are really behind the standardization of products. And finally, there are a great deal of responsiveness of Islamic finance to the needs and requirements, including from the digitalization. We are seeing the active use of authentic technologies and reaching people where nobody else can in some of the villages and hard-hit communities by different challenges. And I'm happy to see this emphasis today on sustainability as well. So what is needed? Then the DSG has told us something about the challenges, that we are back to 2015 again, when we have the numbers of the extremely poor rising by around 120 million. We have more than $24 trillion of increased debts, and we have rising gaps almost everywhere, including on the requirements for availing the vaccine. There is a gap of around $27.2 billion. Now we see the good news coming from the Islamic Development Bank about the availability of solutions, about the availability of funds, about the asset under management worldwide to be around $2.4 trillion of assets. So there are some trillions, Dr. Rami, in the business, but it's basically about how to channel them. When we're talking about the billions to trillions, the requirements of the SDGs were around 2.5 trillion. And at the time, the assets under management worldwide were around 60 trillion. Now, the figure is even more double in the gap and more than triple in what's available. So the whole thing is basically about channeling and mobilizing the funds. We believe, based on this partnership, that there are two tracks, and those two tracks are very much complementary. And I appreciate the hard work of Dr. Marikh and his team, and the team in the office of the DSG and the Secretary General for many months to identify the tracks. And I'm happy that my good friend, Mr. Seth with UNITAR in Geneva, are going to be part of that, because you cannot separate finance from knowledge. So that the two tracks are like that. We have the knowledge track with seminars, workshops. Great to see scholars, practitioners, experts, academicians on the call today with think tanks and research centers. So there's going to be an opportunity to identify, to enhance the data and evidence, to provide ideas and solutions. You cannot really do the work without data and evidence and knowledge to support the work. And then, meanwhile, we need really to address these gaps. Perhaps the many examples mentioned earlier by Dr. Hajjar and by Dr. Dashti, what they need is just to be scaled up. We need higher scope. We need the higher multiplier. We need the partnerships that our DSG mentioned earlier. Here we can really realize the potential of Islamic finance. If you Google realizing the potential of Islamic finance, you will see hundreds of papers talking about that, but basically how to translate the ideas into practical solution. Now we have two areas of work. One is related to COVAX facility and the ACT accelerator, with a gap of around $25 to $30 billion. But then again, of what Dr. Hajjar mentioned, if we have 300 billion in resources across the world in the Islamic social finance, this is just a critical minimum for what we can talking about. So a small fraction of that with some sort of partnership by market participants that we can really provide some good solutions in. The other thing, everybody today is talking about research and development and knowledge and how to develop the vaccines and made them available. I appreciate the work that the World Trade Organization is trying to do today in terms of availing the know-how to many developing economies and emerging markets. Many of them are among the membership of the Islamic Development Bank or the partners of the Islamic Development Bank around the world. Now, this is another area of possible finance for a social cause that can go beyond the limited scopes of some funds. I think there is no better than the UN and the Islamic Development Bank to assure us of the credibility. And with the good track record of partnership that was mentioned, and just 2 days ago, I was happy to see another partnership led by the Islamic Development Bank with another powerful UN agency, UNICEF, in the field, announcing what they can do together for the youth and the children. I think that this particular initiative can build on this, benefiting from the last hours of the holy month of Ramadan and the good spirit of cooperation, getting knowledge with money. I think that would be the best formula and best solution going forward.
Thank you for this rich intervention. If I may follow up very quickly, if you can take 30 seconds. I don't mean to put you on the spot here, Dr. Mahmoud, but how would success look like for this particular initiative, this dialogue? How do you see it successful and when?
Well, you didn't abandon your usual practice by putting me under the spot, Dr. Rami. Now
I'm sorry about this.
I'm under the spot of the sun as well. So there are two areas of work, as mentioned earlier by the DSG and Dr. Hajjar. So I think each one of them would read the metric. So perhaps our friends in Untitled and the knowledge partners and the Islamic Development Bank research centers can really define the metric of knowledge dissemination and the report and the roadmap that I think Dr. Marikh is going to be talking about. This is an area of work that has its own way of judging its success, and we should start now. The other part is basically when you talk about money, there are funding gaps. How much of money? We have an ambitious figure. I'm not talking billions here, I'm talking millions. Can we mobilize from now until next Ramadan, inshallah, $100 million to be dedicated for causes related to dealing with the crisis, for recovering back better, for adequate response? Can this leadership of the UN system, along with the Islamic Development Bank and the many partners, mobilize this amount of money? And when we come, inshallah, again next year like this time, we can say we launched this in 21, here we are 22, we had zero in our pockets, but now with the mobilization, we had better knowledge of what Islamic finance, social finance can really be doing. And at the same time, we managed to have $100 million at least dedicated for some particular access. And we believe in finance in the multiplier and leveraging effect. So that could be more than a demonstration going forward. It could be a humble target. And some of the measures could be ambitious on some, but at least we need really the numbers to speak in a year from now.
See, we bring the best out of you when we put you under the spot. Thank you very much, Dr. Mahmoud. We really appreciate it. And I see that you're shifting some of the answers to Dr. Marikh in a very diplomatic way. But last but not least, Dr. Ahmed al-Marikhi, Special Advisor to the UN Secretary General. He has been a cornerstone, actually, and he has been involved in this initiative since the very, very beginning of its creation. Dr. Ahmed, this is the first time I engage with you, so I will be very easy with my questions, but I would like you to really give the audience an idea, a little bit of a background about the initiative and what's really expected out of this dialogue. And perhaps you can give us a glimpse of the roadmap moving forward in the next few months towards the end of this dialogue. Dr. Ahmed, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Dr. Rami. First of all, I would like to thank the SG and ISDP President for leading this initiative. And also I would like to thank Qatar for supporting the dialogue. And this initiative or this event actually coming very timely. We are in the end of Ramadan and the Eid is coming, where we are thinking of the people who are in need. Regarding your question about the background about this initiative, actually it is not a new initiative. Actually, it is started from World Humanitarian Summit in 2016. First discussion about the social finance and how to benefit from the Zakat and the Islamic social finance. But what's happened from 2016 until last year? I mean, there's no one take it in their shoulder and say, let's see what is the problem and how can we implement. Yes, there is some kind of implementation from here and there, but it is a kind of individual between the some of the UN agencies and some individual to give the zakat, and they implement the zakat during the UN. But the idea is, how can we come up with a mechanism that help everyone and every Muslim in all over the world, not in the donor countries like the Gulf countries or similar to those. No, but my thinking, how can we encourage all the Muslim all over the world, businessmen, individual, and anyone can actually donate and can contribute in this kind of the mechanism. So as you know, the zakat, it is very sensitive in the Islam. It is, I mean, for any Muslim, he got this kind of sensitivity for the zakat. He cannot pay the zakat for anyone. He should also make sure that his zakat going to the right people according to the categories that the coming in the Sharia law. So there is a lack of understanding and the mature of understanding of the Islamic finance and how to adapt the UN to this mechanism. So we need to have a better understanding of the tool of the Islamic social finance. Then we can figure it out what is the best mechanism to implement through the UN. So this is why this initiative came, actually. And we divided the mechanism to 3 stages. The first stage is recommend to have a high-level event, show how important this initiative is, and we have it today. And then we will start the series of seminars among the experts and the implementers. So this will be also, I want to highlight very crucial thing here, and I will take this high-level event to the important to have a government's entity, those national entities like Zakat Fund, Awqaf ministries, and etc., who are having this capacity, and we want them to share with us this dialogue. So I am encouraged, of course, all the PRs who are attending today to identify those entities that can join us with this dialogue. Then we will understand, we will have, how can we understand the mechanism? What is also the UN has already done on the Islamic social finance? How can we understanding the Islamic social finance? By this seminars. So it will be like opening, we will hear the scholar, we will hear the expert in Zakat, we will hear also the expert in the UN agencies, how they want to work together. So in this case, we will have a kind of openness for each other, and we will come up with a roadmap. This roadmap, it will be like a knowledge and e-learning platform. Once we have the mechanism, we can use the fund, of course, to achieve the SDGs and also for any challenges like ACT Accelerator or COFAX facility or resilience building for a future pandemic or any other disaster. So the idea of having this dialogue, it's to understanding more about the Islamic finance and how can we implement it in the ground.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You bring a wide range of issues. In particular, I was taken aback by the issue of governance. I think this is very important, very sensitive, because the credibility of collecting the zakat and using the proceeds is still a challenge in the minds of many people in the region, on the minds of many donors, actually. So hopefully this partnership or this dialogue will bring tools and modalities that will assure the donors of the right collection and disbursement mechanism for zakat. Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed, and good luck with the seminars in the coming few weeks. Of course, this is just we're running out of time. This is just a launch event of the dialogue, just an icebreaker. Unfortunately, we'll not have a chance for questions and interventions by the participants, but they will have plenty of opportunities during the dialogue over the next few weeks and months, inshallah ta'ala. And before I turn to Ms. Amina for her closing remarks, I would like to ask if the president of the IDB is willing to share any final thoughts for a couple of minutes. Mr. President, if you have any final thoughts you would like to share with us, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Rami. As we come to the end of this event, I would like to leave you with the 3 quick thoughts. First, I have spoken today about the values and principles that drive Islamic social finance. And I want to conclude by saying that the greatest value of all is work. So I want us to move quickly from words to action. Second, we are meeting today because the human being is our first cause and concern. Together, we are looking for the means to preserve human dignity, and we are striving to help human being to be strong and able contributor to building herself or himself and society to add social and economic values. Third, I fully believe that cooperation and partnership are the only effective way to solve humanity's greatest challenges, including achieving the 2030 global agenda. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity, in fact, to thank the peoples behind the scene who arranged today's event and everyone who will be involved in ensuring the success of the dialogue and this partnership. And I would like also to thank all the participants who have taken the time to attend this event and in the last these days of Ramadan. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would finally like to wish you a good rest of the day and an early Eid Mubarak, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Shukran.
Alaikum salam. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Really appreciate it. And from words to action really is very important. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu lima taquluna ma la taf'alun. Oh, who you believe, why do you preach what you don't practice? So actually the real test is when it comes to the real action. And I have to admit, it takes an ultimate optimist to see the pandemic with all the repercussions as an opportunity to get us back on the track to achieve the SDGs. And Ms. Amina will leave the last intervention to you to share with us your thoughts on what actions really need to be taken. Ms. Amina, please, if you could conclude.
Thank you very much, Rami. And thank you, Your Excellency, Dr. Bandar, for being with us here today, and all our colleagues, and in particular, Rola Mahmoud Ahmad. It's been wonderful to listen to you. The UN and the Islamic Development Bank coming together today really is about harnessing the remarkable capacities that we have to turn those words that Dr. Bandar talked about into actions. And I think we have never been more endowed in the world today with the tools and with the connectivity to make this happen. And it's fantastic to see Nikhil Seth, our head of UNITAR, with us today, who has got, you know, capacities and examples of how this works when we bring people's knowledge and skills gap together. Islam's promotion of social trust, cooperation, and solidarity really does mean that Islamic social financing aligns absolutely with the SDGs. And I think that's what we have to understand across the knowledge that we expound out there. And in the context of COVID-19, it's also going to provide a valuable and largely untapped resource because it's not understood. And it could help, for instance, to close the COVAX facility gap. The amount that is needed when I see stimulus packages of trillions of dollars, and we're looking for less than 50 billion million, in fact, to the COVAX facility, it seems quite ridiculous that is the way we respond to humanity's needs at this time. And so I think we are really looking at changing the way people look at having solidarity with humanity, because this is what it is. It's a pandemic. It's not something that is caused by one on another. It is a pandemic that is affecting everybody across the world. This dialogue is going to give us an opportunity to do that bridging and to make sure that we can scale up what Dr. Ahmed actually showed us is possible with what happened with the humanitarian space as he filled that with resources to look at inclusion. But we need it to go to scale. We need it to happen to the most vulnerable. And so the partnerships, inviting business, civil society, research centers, and academia to join this dialogue is going to be really important, and to really get national zakat, wakaf onto the table. So solidarity is important. We heard Rola talk about the 3 Fs, financing constraints, the inequalities and the shortfalls. It's all about the resources and how we best use them for that. Of course, Dr. Ahmed on the inclusion, there is no more greater cause than to make sure our human family, that no one's left behind. And that's what the SDGs and Islamic financing, social financing talk to. And of course, Mahmoud, who really has been the fire under our feet, giving us the substance and the can-do of this, has talked about, you know, the new world of fintech and how we can really connect people and make this happen in the life of the most vulnerable and the poorest. So I'm going to endorse what he said in terms of what does success look like. Moving from words to actions is to put the seed money down. Of course, I'm always optimistic, but I'm always in a hurry. Because the person out in the sun is feeling it more than we in our air-conditioned rooms. And so we have to remember that. And I would say that it would be wonderful to see seed money put down to start this before the work of Hajj. We have launched this in Ramadan, and we could put seed money down by Hajj. It's an expression of Islamic solidarity with our own ummah, but also with the world. So again, thank you to Dr. Bandar for really opening up this opportunity to carry this forward, to our panelists who've spoken so well, to the audience, and to those who are going to do. As Dr. Bandar said, from words to action, there's many that are going to do. So the teams out there, this has been something that we deeply appreciate. And I know by the grace of God that we can make the SDGs, but it requires all of us to believe it, all of us not to lose faith, all of us to remember that those on this panel today, those watching us today, are doing it because they're committed to humanity and to getting the right thing done. So I wish everyone a happy Eid Mubarak, and I pray that all our ibadah is blessed and received by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Ameen, ameen, ameen. Thank you very, very much, Ms. Amina, and for this frank and genuine call for action. And inshallah, we'll see results, but we're running out of time and I have to close, but I have to really thank the Deputy Secretary General, Ms. Amina. Thank you very much. His Excellency, the President of the Islamic Development Bank, Dr. Bandar, thank you very much. And actually the technical teams behind the scenes, as you mentioned, Mr. President, from both sides, the UN side and the Islamic Development Bank. Of course, I thank the panelists, Dr. Dashti, Dr. Mahmoud Muhyiddin, and Dr. Ahmed Al-Mrehi. Special thanks to ESCWA and the team behind the organization. Special thanks to UNITAR, the WHO, to the State of Qatar, and to the all the entities supporting the ACT accelerator and the COVAX facility and the COVID response. And finally, and most importantly, thanks to all of you joining us today from different time zones. And on behalf of the United Nations and the Islamic Development Bank, we invite you to join us in the upcoming sessions to make progress, real progress, in the international dialogue on the role of Islamic social finance in supporting the SDGs. Eid Mubarak, and we are praying for development, peace, and justice for all oppressed. And we can see the news in these difficult times. Eid Mubarak. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace. Thank you.
Wa alaikum assalam. Eid Mubarak.
Mubarak.
Thank you.
Thank you.